Thank you, Madam Chair and Ranking Member and the committee for your commitment to this project. I want to thank Dr. Fisher for traveling to represent Man Grandstaff. Dr. Fisher, thank you for your leadership, your advocacy for the interest of veterans in Eastern Washington. I've heard a lot of positive about your leadership and appreciate you taking on this project. Dr. Stone, I want to thank you for appearing here today and your commitment at this critical time in the electronic health records modernization. I want to pick up on some issues of staffing that I asked about a previous hearing. I want to make sure that your commitment to, quote, flood Man Grandstaff with resources to cushion the Cerner rollout is being carried out. So first, how many travel nurses do you have on site now, and how many are you hoping to get?
Ma'am, we have 24 traveling nurses on site, but since we've had a delay in go live, they will likely be packing up here pretty soon, and we'll bring them back out in June. That's the current plan, and so that whole cycle will be repeated.
Thank you. How many physicians have you added, either from the Clinical Resource Hub or reassigned from other medical centers, and how many do you hope to add?
I don't have that breakdown today, but I'm happy to forward that to you. We have hired over 50 of our 108 mitigation personnel, and we anticipate to be 90% healthy with this delay in go live, an added benefit of slowing this train down a bit.
So I just heard, I was going to ask about the additional permanent staff. That goal was 108, and you just said it was.
That's correct, ma'am.
And you're at 50?
We're at 50, 54.
54.
Several have had an offer. We're just waiting to onboard them. But I'm told by June, by our HR department, we'll be at about 90% strength by the time we go live.
Okay, so the additional permanent staff that you need, you believe that will be in place by July 2020?
We anticipate 90%. Some of the physician positions are extremely difficult to recruit under any circumstances. I'm optimistic, as I was the last time I sat here, but we will likely not reach 100%. And we never really anticipated we'd reach all of those recruitments. But over 90%, as from my perspective, is healthy.
Okay. Given the delay of the initial rollout from March to July, are we going to be able to keep all these employees, some of whom are temporary for when they're needed most?
The answer would be yes, because they're permanent hires. Our hope is that once we reach steady state, we might find an excess, in which case we will allow them to attrit. But in the short to medium term, as long as we need them, the permanent hires are permanent, and we would attrit them when they were ready to move or if they underwent an adverse action. Hopefully that would not be the case.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Case cited in his testimony a backlog of 21,155 requests for community care at the medical center.
Yes, I'm happy.
Perhaps this doesn't surprise me. I understand one of Secretary Wilkie's reasons for delaying the Cerner go live was that the functionality to process community care is not ready for prime time yet. With the additional time and staff you have and will have, how are you going to walk through this backlog and make community care available to the veterans who want it?
So just for clarification, ma'am, the backlog is now, I think, down around 17,000. That's not to say that the care has not been rendered. We simply have not administratively closed those consults. Through a combination of overtime and compensation time, as well as leveraging those travel nurses, I am told by the end of April we will have completely resolve that backlog. Furthermore, I've asked our VISN for additional personnel in order to support the Office of Community Care so that we don't reach that crossroads again. I would say that in the last 2 years, I've increased the personnel in the Office of Community Care by 48%. This next bump will represent a substantial increase as well. But the reality is we're purchasing more care, and it takes more staff to support that care.
Okay. Mr. Case, would you respond to just where you believe we are?
On various issues, yes. I would say on community care, which was just addressed, they have been scheduling overtime to reduce that backlog. My understanding is that in the process, in reducing the backlog, they're going to train people to adopt to the new scheduling of community care. That may be more complicated, but it's also going to require, there's going to be more demand is the anticipation of a mitigation.
Okay. Mr. Fisher, would you also address where we are with the new, that the issue of only having 31% of computers and 51% of new medical devices not being received yet?
My understanding is that all the computers have been distributed to my staff. Biomedical devices are continuing to be distributed as well. I would defer to Mr. Wyndham on the technical aspects of where precisely we are with biomedical devices. I have a new computer, it's in my bag, and so do every single staff member have a new and improved with greater RAM, and we're good to go with respect to our computers.
Okay,
ma'am.
my time has expired. I do have further questions that I'll submit for the record, and appreciate all of your attention to getting this right and getting it done as soon as possible. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am.